Greetings and welcome, I'm Ash, and this is my beta overview for Torment, Tides of Numenera, a spiritual successor to quite possibly one of the best RPGs ever made, Planescape Torment. And much like its predecessor, it focuses on compelling storytelling, interesting characters, and plenty of different ways to solve any problem you might encounter. Before I begin with my overview, it's important to note that this is the first playable iteration of the beta, version 0.0, and as such, many things are either unfinished, unpolished, or both, so don't judge Torment too harshly for its flaws, as it is still under heavy development. With that said, let's start from the very beginning, the introduction and character creation. Much like Planescape, Tides of Numenera throws you headfirst into the world, quite literally in this case, with very little explanation of who you are, and what exactly you were doing before you lost your memory and started falling to the ground from near orbit. After a brief tutorial filled with some great voice acting and writing in general, you will be able to customize your character by remembering who you were before the whole ordeal. What this means is that your choices throughout the intro section will be what determines your final class and stats. The problem here is that Torment uses a lot of words and strange terms like descriptor to explain what is in essence a classic D&D character creation process where you can choose your class, stats, perks and spells. It is a well done system that is easy to understand once you figure this fact out, but Torment seems to go out of its way to confuse new players by dropping a massive wall of text on them the moment they begin. It's obviously a placeholder for the beta, but it really isn't needed and it just serves to make the whole process appear a lot more complicated than it really is. I personally went with a smart mouth roguish type of a character, as my intention in these old school RPGs is to be the most annoying person in the world and hit everyone I meet with a barrage of questions about anything and everything. Given how these sort of characters work in older RPGs, I fully expected I'd be somewhat gimped in combat due to my focus on talking, but as it turns out, almost everything is useful when a battle breaks out. The actual combat, i.e. the act of smacking each other on the head with clubs, is more or less unchanged from other similar RPGs, though it does have one significant difference. You can choose to overexert yourself while doing an activity involving speed, intelligence or might, which will give you a greater chance to hit or to perform whatever feat you were trying to do, at the cost of points you only replenish after you take a good long rest. What this means in gameplay terms is that you can give yourself an advantage in combat, dialogue or even when operating items, but you can only do it so many times per day before you become too exhausted. It sounds simple, but the system is so well done you're constantly going to be second guessing yourself whether it is worth it to use a couple of points from your might pool now to guarantee a hit, or to save it for a potentially tougher encounter later, or even when you need to do some heavy lifting. Besides simply shooting, burning or stabbing other people in combat, there are plenty of old artifacts, or Numenera as they are called, that you can use to turn the tides, hopefully in your favor. Even simple background objects can sometimes be interacted with, and if you are knowledgeable enough, activated in such a way that it hampers your enemies. One of the first such artifacts you'll be able to exploit are orbs that seemingly contain memories of some long-forgotten race, which, if overloaded, result in everyone nearby becoming sick and dazed as a wave of memories passes over them. You can then capitalize on your opponent's weakness and confusion with some easy hits to the back, or simply run away if that's your thing. Or, better yet, why even fight at all? You can be like me and simply weasel your way out of fights, or just be intimidating enough that the other party doesn't want to come anywhere near you. And even if you fail your initial dialogue checks, you can try it again later, even in the middle of combat. Trying to initiate a conversation during battle will eat up your turn, but if you can sense some sort of weakness among your foes, you can use that as an excellent argument to break off the fight, allowing everyone to leave before things get too out of hand. I don't think I've ever seen a game before Torment that allowed you to do this, so color me impressed. Overall, the fighting system is solid and involves plenty of decision making on your part, but it is a bit basic right now. Mostly because it's all low level combat, and as such all of the flashy spells and abilities are simply out of reach for the beta. It also suffers from some performance issues, which are especially noticeable if you have multiple enemies taking turns one after another, which can result in the game freezing for a few seconds. But fighting, especially in a game like Torment, is not everything. It is the story, the characters and the setting that are the most interesting parts, and I am happy to tell you that Torment knocks it out of the park in this regard. I won't discuss the story in depth due to spoilers, but I will say there is plenty of it even in this limited beta, and that it is extremely well written. I have spent a good couple of hours simply talking to various people of Sagus, the first city you encounter, and while on the surface these characters might not look interesting, each and every single one of them had a deep and intriguing tale to tell if you could coerce them into telling you. Without spoiling you much, here's a couple of examples of what I mean. I found a cannibalistic cult that lives in the depths of Sagus, and rather than the usual RPG business of simply exterminating them, Torment actually managed to convince me not just to leave them alone, but to concede that they might actually have a good point. There is a man clad in heavy armor and completely frozen in time in one of the corners of the public plaza. He was a general of the army that once almost wiped Sagus off the map, and as a punishment for his crimes, he now begrudgingly stands there forever as an information terminal. I have also met a trio of sentient robots from a bygone era whose god had abandoned them, thus leaving them forever stuck among humans. I didn't think I could ever care about a robot's existential problems, but Torment proved me wrong. These are just 3 small encounters that are completely unrelated to the main story, but due to the extremely well written dialogue so compelling that I spent the majority of my playthrough simply talking and immersing myself into the world. So if you do decide to play Torment, heed my advice and spend a bit of time chatting up to locals, you won't regret it. If all of this has you interested in Torment, let me just repeat once again, this is very much a beta. The graphics, while a massive improvement over Wasteland 2, are not finished, and you will find plenty of low resolution textures and background objects. The UI is a complete placeholder right now and is best described as hot garbage, with almost every menu besides the dialogue one freezing the game for 5 seconds, as well as generally missing keybinds and options. The same goes for the actual game itself. Even though Sagus and its surrounding areas are mostly finished, you will still frequently encounter a text message telling you what is supposed to happen here because the scene never got finished. If you decide you want to get involved in Torment this early in development, make sure you are prepared to withstand some bugs and missing features, and most importantly, offer feedback. Torment Tides of Numenera is right now most definitely clunky and unfinished, but if you can get past that, it has some of the best writing, characters and setting I have seen in a very long time, and trust me when I say I play a lot of RPGs. Once finished, I can easily see it surpassing even Planescape Torment, but currently it still has a long way to go. So if you do decide to jump in, either do it for the story or because you want to help the game during its development by offering feedback. Just don't buy Torment right now expecting a fully finished game, because it simply isn't. Thank you guys for listening, and if you enjoyed this, please do leave a like, it ends up helping me a lot, and if you would like to see more, you can either subscribe here or check out the website linked down below. That one tends to be updated more frequently. With all that said, I hope you have a nice day, and I'll see you soon.